Hey Sandeep, hi.
Hi, hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I love that nice painting on the wall in the background. You have quite a few of them, huh? Interesting.
Yeah,
And a guitar. I love that setup.
last one is a Dylan.
Nice. Right.
So let's start out on content recommendation engine. Okay.
Yes. So,
Content recommendation. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm going to give quick context to those who don't know you, right? So, while sort of I'll have Sandeep introduce himself, right? The experience he has in the digital industry, right? Sandeep has, I think, what, some 20 plus years of experience.
yeah, 20 plus.
Sandeep, you know what? So I'll give you a challenge right now. Why don't you introduce yourself in just exact 1 minute? Try to summarize all of that for the listeners in 1 minute. And I'll put you on a timer right now. Let's go.
So, I've started off as a marketer and one of the very early marketers in digital marketing. And I've been in publishing business for a long, long time and hit the CMO position. And I felt that from CMO position, nobody can avoid business in life. And then I went to the business side, couple of good CEO roles. And I've been a serial entrepreneur. This is my third stint. First two stint failed. So this is another thing. Every good around 10 years, I quit my job and I feel frustrated with the job and I start something of my own. I've done it 3 times. And I mean, digital publishing space, I'm pretty strong. I kind of understand most of it. Obviously, there is much more to understand and learn. And all of us are in a very dynamic field wherein rules kind of change and those rules can, kind of affect our lives.
Right.
Almost on a weekly basis.
Right. Awesome. So obviously he downplayed it amazingly. To give context to people, Sandeep has been CEO for Indian Express. He had a very long stint at the Times Internet, right? He has on multiple hats in B2B, B2C, in all sort of settings, right? And his latest stint is that of Inaz. Is that right, Sandeep? Is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Awesome. And then Inaz also deals in the content recommendation space, is that right?
Yeah. Machine learning driven content recommendations. Yeah.
Okay. So Sandeep, again, for the noobs out there, for the novices out there, just break down this idea of content recommendation, right? Why? Like, most importantly, why? News at best is diverse, right? We all want people to have diverse opinions, diverse sort of content coming into them, right? What sort of drives the need of having content recommendation engine or as a product for publishers?
So, I'm talking about 2003 when the online was just about to gather vintage and AdWords had started. And
Yeah.
AdWords was a follow-up product to AdSense. And AdSense was a follow-up product to the famous Google search, page rank algorithm and all, which kind of started in 1998 when both these guys were, I think, in Stanford as PhD students. So the key to understand the recommendation engine part is that, you want to kind of understand what the user is reading and, you kind of want to second guess the navigation of the user and give him links or content which can be more meaningful and the user can keep moving on. So AdSense as a product was more revolutionary back then. Right now, AdSense is very different meaning, but at that time, AdSense meant that Google has built a technology which will read your page, understand what the page is, and it will put in advertisements which will have high CTRs, which are more relevant. Okay, and Google kind of introduced a word called quality score back then, and it kind of matched. So the big part of what Google is today is different, but at that time, AdSense was big. AdWords was like, something very small. So in terms of content recommendation, right from there, I'll kind of jump very quickly to what two big companies have done very recently as in past 3-4 years. One is obviously Facebook, which is the leading company in machine learning. And if you realize, Facebook is a company which is slow in terms of updating their products. And, Zuckerberg kind of likes to test and, even from one smiley to 5 smileys or buttons, he took years, So, they are optimizing this, the Facebook feed on a real-time basis. I hope you understand. There are no page views, there's no click.
Yeah.
And they kind of started out wherein the concept of page views got converted into concept of time spent. So in terms of time spent, the recommendation engine is an infinite scroll of content pieces which you're going to engage with more. And I'll connect the dots a little later, but the other company which I want to talk about is which inspired me to become an entrepreneur again was Totua. So this Totua is also known as ByteDance, and they own TikTok. And prior to TikTok, they were, part of their business was Totua, and they were the largest short video platform in China. And they built some massive machine learning for themselves, wherein they could generate 76 minutes per user per day.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and I'll share a Y Combinator article with Vivek. It's a very interesting article to read in terms of what they achieved, and I think you guys can give it a shot. So,
absolutely.
The key of content recommendation today, and the whole logic of content recommendation today, is about machine learning and AI kind of increasing one metric in a more or less supervised, there's unsupervised and supervised machine learning. So in a supervised machine learning manner, the algo tries to optimize on time spent. Okay, so that's kind of very basic, and obviously the video time spent is huge, and as Totua became popular and popular, so I'll kind of bring in some ideas in the middle which may sound a little off, but I hope I'm kind of making sense. So you might realize that around 1.5 years back or 2 years back, Facebook started bringing in videos in the feed of Facebook accounts and channels which you've not liked or subscribed.
Yeah.
And your friends have also
you might like this.
You might like and suggest it to you.
True,
and
true.
videos.
Those food videos came into my feed. I remember that. Yeah.
So this is what they learned from Totua. That okay. But this became so crazy that you were kind of not seeing your friends and family, because if an algorithm goes mad about increasing time spent, then at times you just are only seeing those videos. And so I think in somewhere in August 2017, Zuckerberg kind of moved back to a friends and family algorithm. And but he balanced it between time spent and this. And we all know that Facebook is losing audiences, especially younger audience in US. And even in India, we see larger number of engagement today happening on Instagram than what happens on Facebook. And if you see, most of the celebrity accounts are more active, and Asia or Deepika is more active on Instagram than they're active on their Facebook accounts.
True.
And very recently, Facebook has started this Twitter kind of thing where, all these celebs, their faces keep coming and you follow them, they're asking you to follow. You might be noticing. So, all this content recommendation engines, essentially want to kind of profile each user, and they profile the user. They used to profile the user by placing a cookie in your browser, but now they profile you by some kind of machine ID. So some kind of a CPU ID or some machine ID which you have, so that even if you are going cross browser, they still know it's you. and they are able to kind of send out those recommendations.
Right. So I'll take a step back here, Sandeep. So you're sort of literally positioning Facebook as just another publisher, right? That I'm competing with today. Like, let's say if I'm a publisher, right? I'm sort of now seeing Facebook being used as a reference of a publisher, right? Who is trying to who has built a content recommendation algorithm, which is driving people to spend more and more and more and more and more time on the page, right? So the North Star for them essentially becomes time spent on Facebook or time spent on site.
Correct.
Is that what the core reason is behind building or investing in a content recommendation platform or a solution?
Correct. If today, if you look at a content recommendation engine, we are kind of building something wherein there is increased time spent, and the feed product kind of stays on feed. But if you just look at a publisher ecosystem, now if Times of India has 100 million users on desktop and mobile web, on their app they have 3 million users. So what do I tell you? That means that news is a latent need. Not an immediate need. It's a latent need, and it becomes an immediate need when there is a bigger event. So people going to the app LTVs for publishers have gone down drastically. So that's one point. You have to understand the news consumption is not app based. News consumption is most of the time browser based, because it is driven from Facebook or Google. Good 70-80% of the traffic is driven from
remains from there. Yeah.
And as a conceptual note, you can always remember that news is a latent need. And if it, until unless there is corona or a helicopter crash or some attack, you jump to your favorite news platform. Otherwise, you are discovering most of it via, search
or social.
So the other thing which you have to understand is that, you look at Outbrain and Taboola and these kind of technologies. And I've been very fortunate to kind of meet their stakeholders multiple times. Adam and Yaron was Outbrain's founder. And their product teams are pretty good. And their dream was quite good in terms of product. I mean, they built some fantastic engines in terms of managing CTRs. But the point, when the demand is very weak, and since they're driven by demand, the AI algorithm can't do much if they are not trained. So, I mean, if you see today Times of India and see Columbia ads, and I see Columbia ads, they'll be practically the same, because the number of ads at the back end are very limited.
There's only so much demand available.
Yeah. So, because the number of ads are limited, then suiting an ad to an individual requirements kind of doesn't happen. So this is from the demand side.
Right.
Now, from the publisher side, I mean, look at Columbia. Columbia is not just
Times.com. Yeah, that's right. It's much larger now. Yeah.
Yeah. So Columbia is not just like Outbrain and Taboola. Columbia was a big project in first-party cookie. So they kind of collected data on more than 300 million people, and it was led by a very solid guy, Swapnil, who kind of did a very good job out there. Yeah. But the problem was they couldn't monetize it. And for me, I built DMP twice with Lotomic, and I tried to kind of sell it out in the market based on the DMP, the way it is sold in Southeast Asia, US, and Europe, where private auctions happen on data. Real-time, yield increase happens on data. So the issue with publishers not using data and content recommendation engines in a very, very good manner has been that, they have not been able to get much ROI on it.
Right.
And another issue which is now come is that the article page, which is getting delivered for publishers, mostly either it's an instant article or it's an AMP, which is an accelerated mobile page. Yeah. One is controlled by Google and the other is controlled by Facebook. And there, they have their own UI. I mean, if you swipe, you go to the next publisher. In an AMP, if you swipe, there were these dots at the top. If you swipe, moving from Amar Ujala to Jagran. So, time spent in AMP is much more reduced. And AMP page has 85-90%
of mobile consumption.
Yeah. True. So, for publishers to succeed at content recommendation engine has been very tough. And then I always was building this feed product. So we introduced something called 1+3 for Times Now. We invented 1+3 because we wanted a feed product. So we kind of felt the publisher, the sweet spot is 4 articles on a page. And people go down and people come up. So now if you see news18.com, timesofindia.com, majority of sites use that 1+3. So it's a kind of feed product. Right. But still the content recommendation revolution in India is very weak. Because if you see Daily Hunt was a regional news aggregator. Okay, and I know Virendra Gupta pretty well. So, these guys did a very good job. And prior to being an aggregator, they were those those vast guys, who do.
Yeah, Daily News was a big vast portal player in the industry. Yeah.
So, now since they raised $25 million from Tortua, like 4 years back. So now they want to be a feed product. But they're not a feed product by design. So that's the challenge for them.
Sure.
It's not easy for them to be a, kind of feed product.
So an interesting point here, right? So you mentioned that publishers in India have not been able to crack the ROI from content recommendation engines, right? So is this also, so now help me understand, right? If you were to sort of go back, let's say, 3 years from now, right? Back in the seat of the CEO of Internet Express, right? Would you make a call of investing in a content recommendation engine as a product and sort of building it scratch up within the team? Or would you sort of go out there in the market and sort of scan and say, okay, I want to pick this one because, hey, you know what, this is it's something which we're trying out. It's something which we don't know will work or not. So we'll just try out something and then sort of play around from there. Right. And again, given the fact that that demand in India is largely constrained, right? We're not looking into an infinite demand, which comes in, let's say for a Google or a Facebook, right? We're still playing with, let's say a Columbia or out, Taboola, some of these guys, right? What would your call be? And then, and more importantly, how would that call change in today's context? Assuming no COVID.
Yeah. See. I kind of feel that, the issue with publisher ecosystem is that, investment in product management is very limited. Okay. Right. And, there are multiple things which are happening with publishers. First of all, it's kind of digital publishing is kind of a failed business because the only true publisher which has tried this business out properly in India is the Quint. Because they are not a unit of a print or a television unit and, putting in 40 crores in a year and making 10 crores and taking that, $5 million loss every year for, only Raghav Bahl can do it. Other than that, I'm not getting into scroll, print and wire, these are those not a very serious attempt. I mean, like a little bit of a, Dan Punya kind of attempt, funded by NGOs and something like that. So, what happens for the bigger guys is that Times of India would be doing 200 crores of revenue. I'm talking about timesofindia.com, which has 3 times the audiences of Times of India print, and Times of India print does 5,000 crores of revenue. So revenue is not going to translate. So the revenue, when it moved from New York Times and Washington Post, it moved to Google and Facebook. It didn't move to NYT.
New York Times. Yeah. So I love that framing. Right, that when print dies, the ad dollars would not go to the digital counterpart; they'll go to Google and Facebook. I love that packaging, right? Because actually that's a reality. And given the fact that print is like this is the moment when print has been hit at its gut the strongest, right? Thanks to COVID, ad dollars will literally evaporate from the industry.
Correct, and the US is a $5 CPM market. For good publishers. And we worked with Chicago Tribune, LA Times, and New York Times. These guys operate sometimes in the range of $12. And that too, it's not difficult for them. Good 50% of their campaigns are double-digit dollars. So in India, it's a sub $1 market for the best publishers. It's a terrible market. So one thing is that even if you have a higher time spent, what are you going to do? I mean, Facebook practically shows you an ad every 25 seconds. Second thing is that none of the publishers are comfortable in doing performance campaign. Whereas Facebook and Google are pure performance. It's CPC,
performance,
cost per
yes.
action, cost per conversion.
Correct. Yeah.
For example, whatever services unit we run, I mean, we are cost for performance. We learned it from Facebook and Google. We feel that, cost for performance is, an offer you cannot refuse. I mean,
true.
We will get it done for you and then you pay us is far easier.
As simple as that.
Yeah. Are still stuck on, at least till 2 years back, they're stuck on that cost per day kind of deals and homepage takeovers. And so, publishers
roadblocks and stuff
are not confident of their own, it's like, kind of sticking to the easier model. The other problem is that in terms of product, there is some solid products which are available already on recommendation engine, on GitHub and other places. So we use an award-winning algorithm of Netflix, and it's kind of open source. And the key issue in content management, content recommendation is data training, and massive server costs. So, I mean, here is where I feel, kind of publishers across the world are not the most tech savvy, digital companies.
That's true.
They're okay. I have not seen great tech implementation anywhere in the world. I mean, aggregators have been the more tech savvy people, whether it's Toto or Facebook, or in terms of technology, in terms of content recommendation, they're miles ahead.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, I can freely say India is a very poor country in terms of technology adoption. Technology is more of a lip service.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you know a company called Pandora. Pandora was the competition to terrestrial radio in US.
And they are the world radio as well, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They did a massive amount of machine learning in Hadoop in 2011. And they had a music genome project which we picked up, and what they did was, I can send you as a document, very interesting thing to read. So there was a PhD project in 2003 somebody was doing, he was converting each song into parts, as in blues, rock, gospel, and this and that. So every song is a percentage of each of this. So they kind of do the machine learning on that, and they put in attributes. And then if you have heard 5 songs, they'll give you a couple of more songs, see your time spent, and kind of second guess what your next song.
That's your profile essentially.
That's your profile.
Yeah.
So in terms of product and in terms of code, there is huge amount of work which is already available. Like, I mean, you are a company which obviously has the cookie on the user. That's how you're kind of sending the data, or somewhere else you have that database, right? So, I mean, you can run that machine learning, and if you're ready to invest in it, it's easy.
Yes.
For a publisher, it is easy. But what is the result of machine learning? Is it revenue? Maybe no, in India.
In India, yes. I think that's the operating word, right? Yeah. In India. You know what, at this point, sorry, go on. Yeah. I have one question for you, that's fine, from the audience.
Yeah.
Is this the reason that publishers in India have been slow in adoption of content recommendation without ads? I think you sort of answered that question at some level already.
People misunderstand content recommendation engine as Taboola and Outbrain.
That's true.
So, India, the content recommendation algorithms have been pretty weak, and I have not seen much work happening on that. Again, it's times wherein some work has happened because they tried to build Columbia, but right now you see all those, pretty girl makes money sitting at home and somebody's getting.
Yeah, we see very standard ads. We know what are those ads there. Yeah.
So, it is like, I think it also kind of signifies the kind of quality of audience we have who are clicking on these ads.
Right. Yeah.
See, it's like the lull and top, right? I mean, even if they get 300 million users, I mean, we know who those users
it doesn't really matter. Yeah,
it doesn't really matter.
The buying propensity of those users is so poor that it is almost immaterial. But then is that a solid indication to sort of explore another business model inherently and sort of look beyond advertising, right? Because if content recommendation is just one piece, right, which drives revenue, the question is, what kind of revenue are we chasing? Are we still chasing ad dollars, which by the way in India are massively, one, they have shrunk already thanks to COVID, right? Second, uh, the the ad dollars, ad rupees and ad dollars, that's the difference, right? The fact that you will get a $5 CPM in US and the fact that you will get a 5 rupee or a 50 rupee CPM in India, that sort of just makes the fact that publishers can't invest in technology inherently, right? So isn't that a good indication of sort of exploring an alternate revenue model altogether, right? For these publications who have insane traffic, right? I mean, what we can't ignore is the fact that publications like Indian Express, Times of India, some of these guys have the craziest traffic across the world. Nobody would see a traffic like what we see in India.
But it's this traffic is not time spent. Time spent is pretty weak, and even if you get these users and this ComScore data is about a person coming once, but on the music sites, you don't count MAUs, you count DAUs, because you want who's coming to my site listening
every day. Yeah.
So on news side, you don't go every day, and that's where the challenge lies. I think the key issue in India is very, very tough to understand this. See, the problem is, you are an entrepreneur, and when I became the entrepreneur for the first time, there's something I was asked to do in terms of making a pitch to someone. And I said, hey, look, I don't want to do that because I've become an entrepreneur since I want to do what I want to do. And the other guy said, if you are an entrepreneur, you have to do everything you don't want to do. I said, what the hell? I mean, I became the entrepreneur for some other reason. So, here is where the whole challenge lies. See, whatever said and done, US may have a lot of issues of their own, but they're the number one country in terms of innovation, because that's the attitude of the American people. They do things because they want to do something better. And that's what they've done. All the wave products have come from US. So I think, you shouldn't do this machine learning or data management platforms from perspective of revenue, even from your own time spent. There's not been a single player in Indian publishing industry who's taken it seriously. Not even a single one. You know why? Because they don't see it kind of, working out in the short run. And a lot of these companies, the stakeholders being print and television stakeholders, their understanding of digital business and the appreciation for data
very
is
different. Very different and very little. Yeah,
And
pure digital is pure digital.
And ask him, hey, look, I want to do a couple of $1 million of project about making my data rich. He says, hey, look, how much money are you going to make out of it? And if you tell him, hey, I'm not sure, he'll say, yaar, bas.
We know the answer. Yeah, we know the answer. You know what? I love the passion with which you speak about the industry. Sort of reflects, shows your experience, of course. I think Neil had a question for you. Neil, you are on mute now.
All right. Hi, Sandeep.
Hi, Neil.
Sandeep, if you, and this is, I think, an extension of conversations that we've had in the past.
My battery is just running out. In the meantime, I'll ask for the charger.
Go ahead, please.
Guys, feel free to sort of chip in and put your questions in the Q&A, please.
Sandeep, every internet business in India talks of customer loyalty, retention, lifetime value, getting the same user back for multiple transactions.
Got it.
And they have in-house departments which they either call loyalty department or CRM managers or CRM team. Across publishers that I have, and we work with so many publishers, all genres. I've never come across anyone in the publishing ecosystem who is called a loyalty manager or a CRM manager, who is supposed to work on the users which have already been acquired, to get them back, to look at their performance, see their lifetime value. Is this something that is completely missing from the publisher ecosystem? And do you think that in future people are going to start working towards publishers?
No, I think that's a very valid point. Actually, I never thought it that way, but you are absolutely right. I've never seen any, I've seen mostly the commerce guys think of a loyalty program. Most of the industries which have paying users think of a loyalty program. And I think probably our users don't pay for the media, or even if you pay for a newspaper or television channel, you kind of don't realize it while you're watching. So the value for those users is very limited. And I think what's wrong with the publishing ecosystem is, say for example, there was somebody telling me, and it was quite a senior person in one of the international publications in India. He said, I have just heard, programmatic play in television. Okay, so you can bid for advertising and this and that. I said, hey, look, that's just something like a last minute inventory or some kind of bidding process. But in digital, we bid on each user. I mean, our commerce kind of happens on each user. And a television
sells.
Yeah, so television doesn't know what each user is, or print doesn't know what each user is. So I think our value is in the bulk of the users. We don't value each user. And in the future, I feel that it should happen. But as of now, what happens is that the people who feel like they want to make more money, and even in US, I'm saying, the model is highly skewed in subscription way. So the Western market has realized that the digital publishing business is either subscription or charity. I mean, New York Times being subscription and The Guardian being charity. So, you might have heard of a publication called The Information. The Information is $400 a year.
A year, yeah. Extremely expensive.
Extremely expensive.
Extremely expensive, yeah.
And still, people are going for it. It's very popular in the Valley. So, for US, rather than, seeing, okay, this customer has low value, this customer has high value, they are saying, hey, look, to hell with the low value consumer. We're not interested in low value consumer, we're just interested in the high value consumer. And, the proof is that $800 million target for New York Times was achieved 1 year earlier in terms of...
as per their expectations,
So the key is that, I think the publisher ecosystem at some level with this convert scenario, some people will take a call, hey, look, subscription is the way to go. For example, I can tell, since we work with them, is the Hindu. I mean, they
have taken that call. Yeah.
And they've done a good job.
They've done a good job, but not only that, they feel that subscription is the way to go. We don't want to increase the audiences. We want to increase only those audiences who can pay. And, the biggest hit in this convert scenario comes to companies like Times and all. And as a company, the companies which get hit the most are companies like the Express, because, they kind of offered the job cuts the first in the industry. Because, their cash flow wise very, very tight.
True.
They're running a cash flow of like working capital of some excess working capital of around 20-25 crores. That's it. 270 crores revenue, 15 crores profits kind of thing.
Right.
It's a disaster for them.
Very tight ship. It's a very, very tight ship. Yeah.
Again, Quint, very already in a tough spot.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen to them. Scroll, Wire, Print, all these Dan Punya companies, very tough.
Yeah. No, I love that line, right? That either it's a charity business. It's actually so true, right? Either you're a family-run business, which is what most of the print publications in the industry are, right? A family is sponsoring that business, right? Just like Jeff Bezos does it for his lifestyle. He has Washington Post on the sides working for him. Right?
Media is a kind of funny business. Not all stakeholders are the same, but some stakeholders are more in media business for the vanity value. They get to rub shoulders with the politicians, with celebrities.
There is vanity value. And there is a political value of running the media.
Not just political value. There's See, I mean, we still haven't reached the point wherein, on the drop of the hat, we can, book a business class ticket to Switzerland or whatever. I mean, see, imagine you have 100 crores. I mean, people have thousands of crores. Imagine you have 100 crores. Now, money is just now the big part of your life is that Deepika is calling you and you are chatting with the minister. So that's not important.
Yeah, that's
The next
power.
thing becomes the Rajya Sabha seat and
Yeah.
so a lot of media business is not just money, it's vanity.
Right. Interesting position there, Sandeep. Interesting position. Guys, I have one last question for you, and I know we're already over the time limit. From a user perspective, right, is personalization good or bad? Very tricky question. Depends on my take is depending on the country you are in. The answer is good if you're in India. It's bad if you're in the US and are concerned about privacy. Sandeep, what's your take?
No, I think personalization is the way to go, and this TikTok business, the way they I mean, just appreciate it technologically. How fast the video loads. They preload the first 5 seconds of the video so that you feel it's kind of flying for you.
Real time. Yeah.
You are spending an amazing amount of time on these platforms. So this time spent and the AI algorithms, it's order of the day, and this is going to happen more and more and more. And it's at some level invasion of your privacy. It kind of collects a lot of data, much more than you realize. So I think personalization is good in all circumstances, at least for businesses. The more data we have on people, the better we can service them. And at some level, kind of consumers like it. At some level, they feel a little deja vu about it, that, I was just doing this and how did this pop up? And, sometimes you feel you were talking on an Android phone and what you were talking about, an ad pops out. So I think that's a little out of the ordinary. But other than that, personalization is good. And a company like yours, for example, who has, I bet 30, 40 million cookies at least with the kind of integrations you have, the more data you get on users in terms of collecting data, in terms of testing ads, I think this is a good time to you're sending this 2 kind of notifications. One is a notification which is about the news, which is pushed by the publisher. The other is an ad, essentially. Yeah. But look, why not 1 notification a day to, kind of see how he reacts to data. I mean, and then keep collecting data on that user. So, and, kind of collect data from a commerce funnel perspective.
Right.
I mean, you all have seen Wirecutter, right? Wirecutter.com.
The public, I think I've seen this one. Yeah.
It's a content commerce piece. Do have a look at Wirecutter.com. I think it's the kind of publisher business I'd really like to move, wherein it's brand, it's affiliate, it leads into commerce, very, very credible content. It's a New York Times company now. Mm-hmm. So a great business that way. Another solid publications on the political side is Axios, AXIOS.com.
Yes. Yeah.
So they've kind of done some very good content. India, a digital publisher business is kind of a tough play, but I still feel the aggregation play is still has bite. But I feel in India, it's time for publishers to kind of ask for money. I mean, there's no point, this ad model is going to get killed.
Interesting, Sandeep. With that, thank you so much for that, Sandeep. Really, really insightful. A lot of new perspectives, a lot of new angles, right? A lot of new analogies to sort of learn and take back. And I love the passion with which you speak, right? About the fact that how media needs to invest truly in technology before having any real expectations of it, before asking for ROI. Right?
Correct.
It's just not the right way of thinking about it.
That's not the startup mentality.
That's not startup. Absolutely.
Great talking to you all.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sandeep. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.